Bloppity Bloop, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, Nate Hawley, and with me is Will who?
Will Skywalker.
Yes, folks, we've been away for a while, we know. We just haven't found the time to record a podcast, and there's just been so much going on, and it's hard to figure out just what to narrow in and talk about. But today we're finally going to be talking about the Rise of Skywalker. It's been out for over a month now. Yeah, I've seen it 5 times. Will has seen it twice. And we're going to go right in, full spoilers. I'm not going to edit this, really. We're just going to have an unfiltered conversation about it. On the one hand, I'm sad that we waited this long to record it because we were both so excited when coming out of the theater the first time, and I would have loved to have captured that. But I'm also glad we've waited this long because we've both kind of gone on a journey with this movie, and the feelings are a little complicated, but ultimately positive. And we'll talk about the good, we'll talk about the bad, and the in-between, and we'll go right into it. But first, we're actually not going to go into our first segment of Bustin' with Happiness. We got some news to break this week. Now, if you've been listening to the show, you know we're not like most Star Wars podcasts that I listen to anyway, that typically start off with a news segment. We just figure everyone else does them. If you're paying attention to Star Wars fandom, you probably know all this stuff. But every now and then there's a big story that we'll just want to draw attention to. And this week we saw the release of the trailer for the Clone Wars Season 7 and an official release date. Episodes for the Clone Wars will start dropping weekly on Disney Plus starting February 21st.
Just in time for my birthday.
Yeah, so Will, what are your thoughts? What did you watch the trailer?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think? What are your thoughts going in?
Wow. That was literally my reaction at the end of it. I love the idea of them kind of reaching Revenge of the Sith and going into it.
Yeah.
Or running parallel to it, I should say. And, I mean, yeah, I was kind of expecting that myself due to the fact that Siege of Mandalore is so close, and they're really putting a heavy emphasis on that being a big part of it. And it really, as Nate and I discussed earlier through text, when it first came out, that is the end of the Clone Wars, right. Is Revenge of the Sith. So I'm all here for it. I'm so excited to see Maul come back again and see the amazing battle that they've cooked up.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it almost kind of makes me wish that the show had actually started during Attack of the Clones too, so that
right?
we could have had that bleed over. But no, it's cool. I'm really excited for all the Ahsoka stuff we're going to be getting. Mm-hmm. I think the guys on Force Center brought this up, and I agree. I think that this season will really cement the idea that Ahsoka is the main character of the series. Like, it is an anthology series, but Ahsoka's story is kind of the overall through line. Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan are basically the main characters of the show. And, man, if it's bleeding over with Revenge of the Sith, seeing how Ahsoka's gonna react to learning that Anakin fell to the dark side. Like, I mean, we see in Rebels she learns of Vader, right. But I don't know. I haven't read Ahsoka, so I don't know what the timeline there is for her. And
then we will not have any Ahsoka spoilers for
now. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I was gonna read Ahsoka, but then once they announced Season 7, I was like, I'm gonna wait until after the series, because I know they touch on the Siege of Mandalore in the Ahsoka novel, and I'd kind of like to save that so I can actually have the visual depiction of it in my head. But yeah, I'm super pumped. This show, I mean, we talked about it on the podcast. We had a whole episode about the cartoons, and hopefully we'll do a whole episode about the Clone Wars just dedicated to that, because the show is so meaningful to me. I mean, the movie came out on the weekend of my 12th birthday, and it's coming back as I'm turning 24. So I have now doubled my life since I became a fan of the show, and man, I'm so ready for it to. And in a way, this almost feels like the quote unquote real end to the Skywalker saga, because it's Anakin's story, that this piece of Anakin's story that we haven't got until now. It's not been complete. It's George's story. Like, people forget that I mean, though George isn't involved with this season, the Clone Wars is the last thing that George Lucas worked on, the last Star Wars story that he wrote. So we're finally going to see the end to that story. But yeah, so super pumped about that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into our first segment, Bustin' with Happiness. Jar Jar?
Mr. Bustin' with Happiness.
All right, folks, this is the part of the show where we dive into what has made us happy in the world of Star Wars as of late. So, Nate, what recently has happened in Star Wars that has made you happy, aside from Clone Wars?
Yeah, I know. I'm taking Clone Wars off the table. But I've been catching up with Resistance. I'm all caught up. The show ends next week. Or this weekend, rather, just a couple days. We're recording this on Thursday, and it ends on Sunday. I mean, it's pretty short-lived, but it's good, and the show's been doing some really great and interesting things this season, and I'm excited to see how it all ties up. Yeah, I'd say that's probably what I've been enjoying in Star Wars is Resistance these past few weeks. Yeah. How about you, Will?
Well, I wanted to interject in that and say that I'm probably gonna try and catch up with that over the weekend.
Cool.
Leading up to it. I haven't watched any of this season, but I'll probably be able to do a mad dash and binge it. But for me, recently I've been starting my rewatch of all the movies of the Skywalker saga,
great.
specifically. Hopefully I can end it with another viewing of the Rise of Skywalker, and just knowing everything that happens in the story, and some other things in some of the side stories now. Different stuff just pops out at me now.
Yeah.
And just that just alone really makes it a much different experience than I've had in the past, because I'm having these different thoughts on my mind as I watch them. I'm currently in the middle of Attack of the Clones, because mostly I'm watching it at lunch during work.
Yeah, fair.
And I get half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to revisit the movies now, knowing the whole story, as it were. But yeah, that's great. Another happy thing that I've been enjoying. I've been rewatching the Clone Wars leading up to season 7, and that's been great. Some of those early episodes are a little silly, but some of them already go really dark, and that show, man, I keep telling you guys, if you think it's just for kids, it's not. Give it a shot, because they go to some pretty intense places. It is a war show.
Right.
And, man, I love it so much. But with that, we're going to dive right into our main segment today, which is the Rise of Skywalker, full spoilers.
Finn, let me learn you something big.
So, I've seen the film 5 times now. Will, you've seen it twice. We've had about a little over a month to process it.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of processing. The fan conversation online has been interesting. Man, people talk about the divisiveness of The Last Jedi or whatever, and I think that was largely blown up. Because at least on my timeline on Twitter, I've not seen as much divisiveness for just about any movie ever.
Right. Yeah.
It's been intense, and yeah, there's a lot to process. There's a lot I love about this movie. There's some things I still don't agree with, but I accept, because they're Star Wars now. That's the story. There's some behind the scenes things that I have some issues with, that, maybe we could have gotten a different story. Maybe they changed some things pretty last minute. We don't know. A lot of that's still coming out now. I mean, even just today, I don't know if you've been on Twitter, but there's been concept art for Colin Trevorrow's movie.
Yeah.
Which has been coming out, which, regardless of if you think that movie would have been better, the concept art is really cool.
It is.
It's some really good stuff.
See, I don't know if I would have liked it more. I don't think I would have, overall. Especially one of those images saw a character in a position that I really just didn't want to see on screen.
You can say it.
Oh, well, we're doing full spoilers. There's one of R2 and C-3PO, and R2 has a big hole in his head. Yeah. And I literally was like, no. That alone makes me not want to see it. R2 is one of my absolute favorite characters. Yeah. So same with my wife. That is her actual favorite character. She always says that she's not a Star Wars fan. She's an R2-D2 fan. And it's just like, I don't think that would have been a moment that I ever would want to see on screen.
Interesting, yeah. Some really interesting stuff there. But we're not here to talk about the movie that could have happened. We're here to talk about the movie that is... The Rise of Skywalker. And yeah, so Will, why don't you tell us how you felt coming out, what your process has been in processing your thoughts, and kind of where you're at with the movie now.
Well, I'm personally glad we waited. I feel we waited too long to talk, but things happen in life.
Yeah.
Because I wanted the high to kind of die down, so I could actually think reasonably about it. That's just who I am. Excuse me. When I got out of it, I was in tears because of just, the way it ended with Ben dying, with Rey going off on her own, and just the nice touching tribute to Luke and Leia at the end. And I was a wreck through a lot of it just because it's the final movie.
Yeah.
And so my emotions were already just sensitive, I guess you could say. Just the little bit touch in each direction got me, my jaw was on the floor often throughout this movie. And so I was still in that moment of just pure elation from the movie, I guess you could say. Which... slowly over 2 weeks kind of died down. And then I started to think about it critically, and we discovered things that we didn't really want to hear about, which, I mean, honestly, we don't have true answers for a lot of them,
right?
And so I'm just going to try to take it all in good faith right now, and just go back to that moment of at the end of the movie when I walked out and I was like, that was fun. Overall, yeah, that was fun. It was a fun ride. I think it's overall a good movie. Again, yes, some choices I think I would definitely have been made different, but I didn't make the movie, so what do I know?
Right. Yeah, mine's been similar. I came out of the movie loving it, like hardcore loving it. It was like in my top 5. And then I saw it 4 times. I saw it every day opening weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I loved it that whole weekend. But yeah, then it started to sit with me. And I don't know what it was, if it was just the fan conversation or if it was the choices that I do still disagree with.
Right.
But maybe I just focused on them too much. But I ended up, within a couple weeks, really not liking this movie. And feeling like kind of hurt by it. And yeah, it was a bit of a dark time for me. But then I don't know what it was. I just kind of had like a moment of clarity where I was just like, Star Wars is Star Wars, and it's going to be what it is, whether I like it or not. There is so much in it that I love. There's so much in this movie that I love that I can just focus on the positive. And like, much of my life, I mean, actually not that much, but a part of my life was dedicated to hating on the prequels and the special editions. Fair. And I'm just tired of hating Star Wars, and I'm just gonna choose to love it. And so I went in a couple weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, and watched it again, and it was actually the most emotional for me. I still have problems with the movie, but that screening, that 5th screening, was actually, I cried the most during that. I mean, when Leia dies,
oh my,
that whole saber fight is really emotional. It's really good, and then just Dad. Gosh,
lost it.
I broke down this last screening watching that. But yeah, so I've kind of come full circle on it. I made a post about this the other day. It's kind of it's kind of representative of my journey with Star Wars as a whole. That I loved it initially. I loved it all initially. Then I found things to really hate about it, right. And now I'm just trying to accept the things I love. And so overall, I'm positive on it. It still ranks pretty low for me, but I like all the movies. I think it's sitting at like number 8 or 9 for me right now, which, it's episode 9, so fitting, I guess. Yeah, it's just fun. You said it is a fun ride. This movie moves, man. Like, I thought The Force Awakens moved fast, but holy heck. This movie, like, barely stops.
Yeah, you barely get a chance to breathe in it. And I liked what you said about how you felt about the prequels, and then what, that kind of led you to reaccepting this movie and then loving it again, or at least liking it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same journey I had, but probably about a week before you. And so I just kind of like let you catch up.
Yeah.
To where I actually had that straight up thought to where I said, this is kind of a faster version of what happened with the prequels.
Yeah.
For me. And I was like, and now I love those, and I take them for what they are, and I, attach them to the whole story instead of separate.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's moments I truly love. So why don't we go through and just talk about some of our favorite things from the movie? I love the opening.
Yes.
I think as much as I'm still uncertain about the necessity of Palpatine to the story, when he's in it, he is great. As much as I'm not entirely sold he needed to be there, but when he's there, he friggin' shows up, and it's so just my boy.
Yeah,
I have been every voice. Oh man, it is so good. Like, Kylo Ren just opening on Mustafar, which I would have liked some more clarity in the movie that was actually Mustafar.
Fair.
But that opening scene of him cutting down all those dudes and then getting the Wayfinder, going to Exegol, and then he goes and meets Palpatine, and man, it's so good.
So good. It takes Palpatine from this kind of little bit creepy to holy crap,
he's
that
terrifying.
Guy is terrifying in this movie. I heard of so many people being like, this will be my first one to take my 5-year-old kid to.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait. Before you do this.
Yeah. All the Palpatine stuff is proper terrifying.
Yeah. I would say this is one of the most terrifying Star Wars films. Probably the most terrifying Star Wars film, just with him alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love all of Ian McDermott's line deliveries. I love it. It's like, I'll kill you. I'll kill you first. I have died before. Like, oh man. And then he quotes himself from Revenge of the Sith, and it works so well. I love the humor. It's really funny.
Humor's really good. Yeah.
I wish we could have gotten more of it, but I love especially that opening sequence with Poe and Rey. I love their dynamic.
You're
wish
difficult.
we had.
You're difficult.
You're a difficult man. I wish we would have gotten more of it in the movie. But that was really fun to see because obviously we haven't seen their dynamic at all.
I was actually really pleased with the dynamic between the two of them. I feel like Oscar Isaac and Daisy Ridley actually have quite a bit of chemistry, even if it's just two people just working together.
Right.
I feel like they act off of each other really well.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me a little bit sad that we don't see them more through the whole trilogy.
Sure.
But I was very pleased with that part.
Yeah. I love what this movie does for Finn.
Yes.
Everything with Finn's arc is perfect for me. I love him being like the center of that friendship because it makes sense because he was really close with Poe and then he's really close with Rey.
Yep.
And so he's kind of the center of that relationship.
The
media is like hands. And then all of the stuff with John Boyega is really good. I love the when Poe's like, I need you in command with me, and he's like, thank you, General. Yeah, it's really great.
3PO.
Man,
honestly, I think that his arc in this movie was by far my favorite part of this
so good.
whole movie. They talked it up, and Anthony Daniels definitely talked it up, and from the trailers alone, I was already saying, this might be his best performance.
Yeah.
And then the movie itself, he got me crying the most.
Yeah.
And laughing the most too, possibly. Especially with his little awkward with the hands, oh, I'll join this too.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah.
And just like they made him mean so much more in this movie alone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love everything they did with his character. And they totally fooled me with all the marketing of him with Chewie's bowcaster. I thought he was actually going to use it. Like, right. Because we saw the shot of him with the red eyes. I was like, oh man, 3PO's going to go hard.
Yeah. That was my Apple Watch screen for the longest time.
No, I love what they did. And yeah, when he forgets everything, the humor of that is so good. Oh, Babu Frick, he's one of my oldest friends. Man, Babu Frick is all of our oldest friends. Yes. There we go. Something I love about this movie. Babu Frick. Holy cow. What a character. I love Babu Frick.
Fun fact, voiced by the same actress who played Moaning Myrtle in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That was neat fun to find out.
It's so good. Yeah. I love a lot of the visuals in the film. I thought they took more visual risks with this one than The Force Awakens. It is still very blue.
Yeah.
Dan Mindel really likes that bluish, tealish lighting. But a lot of it works. The stuff on Exegol, after a while, it gets it feels like a little much, but at least opening and several moments throughout, it really works. I love just how lush and green the, what is it called? Agen Kloss, I think is the name of the planet they're on. Of the rebel base. Opening on Rey, floating with the rocks floating in the X formation, and man, that was really cool.
That was cool. I saw some comments online about that where they were like, it looks really fake, and I'm like, I mean, take yourself out of that. That was my thing.
But I didn't feel it looked more fake in a way that it felt like it was more real. Like I felt like those were props. Like obviously it was CGI and whatever. But it felt like she was on a string, and
Right.
like it I don't know. It felt more Star Wars. It felt like
Right.
old school, and I liked it.
Yes, exactly. And then, her running the course was really nice.
Speaking of which, Jedi Master Leia.
Right. Oh, that blew me away.
Holy heck, man! That first time watching it, when she says "Yes, Master," I was, oh man, my heart. Yeah, just seeing her holding the lightsaber, training Rey. Man, that was really cool. Again, another positive thing, just how they handled Carrie Fisher. I think it was done really well. I think there are moments on repeat viewings. There are moments you can tell it's a little weird.
Yeah.
But again, what else could they have done?
Right.
I really appreciate all the things they did. I love the way. I mean, yes, she dies. I didn't think she was gonna die. But
I called it. I called it.
The way she goes out, sacrificing her life to save her son and save the galaxy, because that act, then well, like the Emperor says it, the Princess of Alderaan has altered my plans, or something like that.
I think he said delayed.
Yeah,
but that's just his hubris right there.
Right. Yeah.
And she just. And just the reveal that Luke did train her.
Yeah,
did
that was
actually
cool.
train her, and she went through the whole thing and had that vision. I'm like, that is so Leia. It really is, though, because like she would see that and she would go, oh, this isn't mine to wield.
Yeah. And did you see it? It was her daughter who
Yep.
played her in that flashback. Billy Lord played her, and then they obviously, mocapped young Leia's face onto her. And I thought that worked well. I thought it looked better than when they did in Rogue One.
Right, true.
I thought Luke looked better than Leia, but again, that was a really cool sequence to see. And yeah, just having Leia have a lightsaber, and it was so elegant and pretty, and it was really cool. Let's see, any other big positive moments before we maybe get into some things that we're not quite as sure about?
The ships. I do love love my ships.
14,000 ships, Will Heckerman.
My wife today actually just said, I think your arm for Star Wars needs to just be ships. And I think she might be right. I'll mix in a few characters here and there. But
you'd have open cockpit.
Yeah, so a few in the cockpit. Yeah. So we're talking about tattoos. I don't know if I got that across. I'm big into the Rebel ships. So the B-Wing, the Y-Wing, the X-Wing, obviously. So seeing a lot of those come back was really nice. The Ghost, obviously, we knew was coming.
And the Fireball's in there, too.
Yep. I did briefly catch that. Though I didn't in the theater. I caught it later on.
Yeah.
And just a lot of these throwbacks, obviously, were really nice, too.
That's another visual I really liked. During the space battle, I thought the space battle was fine. I mean, it wasn't as amazing as any other space battle. But during the space battle, when Palpatine shoots lightning up into the sky, holy heck, that was so cool. Man, when he's just like, "Fear not, my faithful, it is not over yet," and he just blasts the sky and electrocutes every rebel ship.
Yeah.
Oh, also when they all show up and Pride is like, I love how his name is Pride.
Yeah.
Too. But yeah, Pride's like, where did these come from? They have no navy, and it's like, it's not a navy, sir. It's just people. I love that. It's like the whole galaxy rising up.
You are getting taken down by civilians.
Yeah.
And, and that's part of the thing about Star Wars the whole time, is that the rebellion isn't a navy. It is in terms, but it's civilians taking up arms to, turn on this. And so it was a straight up, blatant, this is what this is happening.
Yeah, it was an interesting reversal because, I mean, they touch on it throughout the movie of how up until now it's all been like a small force against this really big force, which has been great, and that's, you know, been part of the theme. But then they took it to, well, the small guys are fighting for everyone, and now everyone's standing up and joining the fight, and there is more of us. And that was really cool to kind of see that reversal, because it's always been there's more of them, but we still win anyway. Yeah. This time there was more of us, and I like that play on the theme there.
Billy D. Williams' return.
Yeah.
He did a fantastic job in his role. Just fell right back into.
Wasn't in it as much as I thought he'd be.
I was expecting more.
But I thought he was good. I mean, like, I don't know that I wanted more, especially since I learned there's a deleted scene where they kind of more so imply that Jana's his daughter.
Right.
Which I don't like. Although Matt Martin said not.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I saw that too. He was like, well, we didn't fully say she was.
Yeah.
It's
I guess
just more of a...
To him, he's like, I think he just sees his daughter in her. And, I mean, again, in the world of the movies, if you're just looking at the movies, he doesn't even have a daughter. Like if that's all you know, like, which is fine. Yeah, he did great. Also, his introduction features one of my favorite moments of the movie, which is this little Muppet. When the driver, he goes in and he's like, we need to get out of here. And it's just like, okay. It's just this Muppet just going, okay. I don't know why.
I don't know, yeah.
I love it so much. Other things I love. Oh, Hux being the spy.
Yep.
I liked him trying to subvert Kylo Ren, and the fact that he didn't get to like live to like, yeah, he did this quote unquote good thing, but he's still a terrible person.
Oh, yeah.
And so he still got his comeuppance because Pride is a much better leader than he is. And he goes, yeah, bang.
It's like, yeah,
tell him we found our spy.
You're obviously the spy. Cheyenne, my wife, was literally, when he says, I'm the spy, she leans over me and goes, Bill Weasley redemption arc. And I'm like, okay, fair. Yeah. But it just that is actually one of the things I sometimes I look back and I wish Hux had been more central and it wasn't Pride. But when I do look back at it, he got what was coming to him. Yeah. Honestly. And that makes me settle on that one, and I'm like, okay, that makes a little more sense now. And really, even though he wasn't an established character already, Pride made more sense to be the one to take over the fleet for Palpatine.
Sure.
Because he was from the Empire.
Right. Well, he says old wars, so I'm assuming he served him during the Clone Wars.
That's true.
Man, what if we see him in Season 7 as a young admiral?
That'd be interesting.
Maybe. Probably not, but could be interesting. Yeah, I liked how Hux was used. I'm still of the opinion I think he should have been the main villain of the movie.
Yep.
But with what we got, I think it was really well done. You mentioned redemption arcs, though, and man, did we get a good one.
Yep.
And I loved how they didn't save it for the last minute. In the middle of the movie, central to the movie, is this big climactic battle, basically the water version of the lava fight from Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, yep.
Shoot, what is that name? Oh,
Kef Beer.
Kef Beer. Yeah. Burr, whatever. I don't know. Another moon of Endor, basically. And fighting on the Death Star remains, and that was so cool. Yeah. And then, Leia sacrifices her life, stops Ben, and then Rey stabs him, and then heals him, and then he's left alone with his thoughts.
Yep.
And Harrison freaking Ford is in this movie.
Biggest surprise to me, honestly. People were like, oh, Harrison's gonna be a ghost and this and that.
I know, I had heard that he was gonna be in the movie, and I was like,
no
way.
No, not gonna happen. And then he's there. And then I like how they quickly killed any thoughts that it's a Force ghost,
Right.
with saying you're just a part of my imagination.
You're just a memory.
Yeah.
Your memory. Yeah.
Your memory.
Oh man, that whole scene, and yeah, just the play on words from Han's death and the Force Awakens, and reversing them.
Great reversal of that whole scene.
And the music in that moment, I will say, I don't want to talk down on John Williams, because I think he still did a good job.
Yeah.
But good as opposed to great.
Fair.
I think he did okay with this movie. I might call it his weakest Star Wars score. I don't like using those words.
Yeah. It's still good, but it's
just compared to the rest of them. I
wasn't gasping at music
But
for a lot of this.
I mentioned the music because the music in that moment when he throws his lightsaber and makes that choice, man, really good. Great stuff.
In the first viewing, I actually was taken aback in that battle because they cut out.
Yeah, so much of it is
no
just sound.
music,
It's no music.
It really threw me for a loop in my first viewing.
But
But
it's so cool. It's kind of like the pod race in the Phantom Menace that way, like because they take out the music until the very end, and it's just sound design, and it's so good. Like that moment where she pushes his lightsaber down onto the wet metal, and it like screeches and boils, and it's delightful.
yeah, and so like, excuse me, it hit me more the second time because I was expecting it, obviously. And so that way I was able to enjoy that more. And so like, I don't know, just that whole scene and then Han's entrance, I was in tears the whole time. And now I also, in my first viewing, had a guy making comments that were just like, oh, come on, what are they doing?
Man.
Well, they're throwing everything away right now, and this and that. And maybe I enjoyed the movie more despite him, especially in that moment.
Sure.
Because as soon as Han showed up, he was like, oh, come on.
Oh, man. How can you not like that?
And I just went, what are you doing, dude?
It's Harrison Ford in a Star Wars movie. I thought we were done with that.
Right? I thought we weren't getting any more. I thought he was done and would never return. And just like, that was the most emotional point for me in the first viewing.
I was, especially this last viewing, I was bawling.
Yeah.
The whole time, man.
Second viewing, most emotional point was Chewie's scream.
Yeah, really big moment there.
Like,
and yeah, I love that Jonas got some meaty emotion to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really really tense. I love the moment with Poe next to her bed there after she's passed, and
it was very nice.
And yeah, he's like, I can't do this, and I love that. Of all the things, there's been a lot of talk online that JJ wasn't continuing what Ryan set up, yada yada. Whether or not you agree with that, Poe's arc is absolutely a continuation of where Ryan took it in The Last Jedi,
Agreed.
and it is a completely natural conclusion to the story that Ryan set up for The Last Jedi, and I really appreciated how he handled the character of Poe Dameron in that way.
Yeah, no, this guy who, is the reluctant leader kind of thing, and just like doesn't know what he's doing with that, but he's a natural at it, and but I love that he immediately turns to the memory of Leia, and then also to his best friend.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I need you to
Yeah,
command me.
it's so cool. I love that just best buddies moment. And he's like, man, I can't do this without you. He's like, all right, man, I got it. they still should have been boyfriends. But regardless, it was good. Also, I really love Zori Bliss. Like, she's not in it a lot, but I actually really liked that, like, shady character from Poe's past who comes back. And I love the moment at the end when she like gives him a nod of like, yeah, good job, and then he gives her a nod, and then he's like, maybe, hey, and then just no. It's like, okay, yeah.
And yeah, Kerry Russell did a fantastic job with that. I was at first when they announced her, I was taken aback, but I've always loved Kerry Russell.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, she was one of my first celebrity crushes growing up. And so, I know some people had issues with that addition of Poe being a spice runner.
Oh man, I thought it was cool.
I thought it was great. It was awesome. I felt it added a little bit more depth to him, just to really flesh him out. And
especially if you just watch the movies, you don't have a lot of that.
Right.
We know from the comic books and stuff, like, he was the child of 2 rebel heroes. Right. And so I really liked knowing that he had a rebel streak.
Right,
like,
yeah.
He
was like, I'm a legacy, essentially, but I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want to break away from that and do this other thing where I can have a little fun.
And then that kind of plays into the theme of Lord Santeca says it in The Force Awakens. He says you cannot deny the truth that is your family.
Yeah.
Which leads us to, okay, we're going to go in now to some of the things we may not have liked as much. We're going to continue processing with you guys. But I say that quote leads into it because Rey Palpatine is a thing.
Yep. I mean, it's such a strange thing for me because it was the journey we went on through these 3 movies with her lineage, all right? So we meet her, and she's an orphan. She's been left there, and we all are thinking, well, obviously she's Luke's daughter, or something along those lines.
Well, and she says, she's like, when BB-8 says he's classified, she's like, classified? Really? Me too. Big secret.
Right. And so there was so much speculation there with, who is she related to? She must be related to somebody already. Is it Obi-Wan? Is it Luke? Is it Han and Leia's unknown child? And
right. I will say, coming out of The Force Awakens, before I saw The Last Jedi, I was on the Palpatine train.
Yes. when the Palpatine theory first appeared after Force Awakens, I feel like I did latch onto that one the most. I don't know why. I don't know why I liked it so much. It's been a few years before that. At least it's been over 2 years since I thought of that. Because then The Last Jedi comes out and we're told she's nobody.
Yeah.
And
your parents are filthy junk traders. Sold you off for drinking money.
And I just accepted that.
Yeah.
I was never upset with it. I didn't think it was bad. I grew to love that idea of her being not part of any lineage. Mm-hmm. And then this, I needed you to see the truth. And just, you are Palpatine's granddaughter. And what? Sorry.
Well, and I love the way meaning I kind of hate the way he says it when he goes, "You are a Palpatine." And then you have the big dun 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 face on it.
Yeah. And like, it is one of the hardest things to get over in this movie. But at the same time, I getting over this was really what kind of helped me propel back into the really liking this movie.
Yeah.
And part of that had to do with, in The Last Jedi, it's not Kylo who says they were nobody.
Right.
She did.
Yeah.
Because that's her memory of them.
Yeah.
Her memory is that they are nobody. They are not important. They're nothing special. Because they chose to be.
Right. My issue comes in, though, because then Kylo further explains it and says they were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. And then in this movie, he says, I never lied to you.
In his eyes, no.
Right, I know. And again, I can get over it, and I have, and I accept it. I think the Palpatine thing it might have landed for me more if her parents were actually still dirtbags.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But they decided to make they're really good people who sold you to save you.
Right.
And
like maybe if Palpatine's son had been the Star Wars equivalent of a squid, and he didn't have the Force powers.
Yeah, just some rejects thing.
And so he just squandered any inheritance he would have gotten from Palpatine, and I guess that could have made sense.
Yeah. I'm really curious to learn the story of Palpatine's son. I think I read somewhere his name is Declan Palpatine.
Okay,
I think.
I know a Declan. That's interesting.
I read that somewhere. That could be wrong. That might have been just a name someone assigned him. But...
I know some people were like joking around calling him like Keith and
Dave Palpatine.
I love Dave Palpatine. That's great. And so like they, I think it'd be kind of fun to get those adventures too. Like, did they ever run into Luke at a certain time? And
did Palpatine know he had a kid like the whole time? Like,
right.
Or was that something he learned after he somehow manifested himself after death? Like, maybe he didn't even know the whole time he was alive.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I guess the question is how did the kid come to be?
Yeah.
Did Palpatine sleep with someone? Which is kind of very disgusting to think about. Or is he like a clone? Like, is he... obviously, he's not an exact clone because he doesn't look like a young Ian McDiarmid. But is he something of that sort? Some sort of genetic... Like, maybe he was a test tube baby that...
Right.
Palpatine grew to try to do what he eventually asks to do with Rey, transfer his essence into her and all that. Which, again, they stole directly from that Legends story, which I did not expect. Like, I did not expect the, multiple... I mean, they didn't exactly do it, but, the Legends story of Palpatine cloned himself and then transferred his dark essence into his clones. Yeah. And that's just kind of what happened.
Yeah, no, I guess.
Because there's no way his body actually survived that.
And so I guess that leads a little bit into just the handling of Palpatine and how he came back was one of my biggest hangups. And the way I can explain it, how I would have probably loved it, is that if he had been some sort of specter or, spirit haunting these...
I wanted him to be possessing the mask.
Something like that, to where he... And then have him manifest in the same way he, restored his body, pulling their life force.
Right.
Because you had that there. You had the mechanic there of him using their life force to, heal himself.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been really neat to see. And again, I've accepted it just, with the fact that not everything needs to be explained.
Yeah.
And, that's the nature of a lot of these movies, is there are always those things that don't get explained, and I've always been okay with them not getting explained.
Yeah. I don't know that they needed to explain how he came back. I think I just need... I don't know. Again, I've accepted it. I just still don't feel like he was necessary for the end of this story. Again, I would have preferred to see Hux be the main villain and see our Force users come up against, like, pure, unbridled fascism rather than...
I can see that,
just dark wizardry. And it was fine. And it was cool. There was lots of cool stuff. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
And, again, Ian McDiarmid was amazing.
Hands down one of the best performances overall throughout the whole trilogy of trilogies.
Yeah.
He gives some of the absolute best performances.
I love his line deliveries at the end there, too. When he's like, your master Luke Skywalker was saved by his father. The only family you have here is me. It's like, ah! Or when he screams, the Jedi are dead! It like sticks in my head like a song.
I know. And that is one thing about him is so many of it's because of the way he delivers them. His lines just stick always.
Yeah.
It's like he throws them out there and it's like a piece of cheese on a metal wall. And it's just so he's so good and just the best word I can say for his performances, and it's an awkward word, is juicy.
Well, I mean, he was pumped full of weird Sith magic juice, I guess.
The thought of him embodying all the Sith.
That was an interesting addition because, again, I don't know. Personally, I'm believing that he's lying.
Okay.
Because what we know right now, and again, they can change the rules, that's fine. But as far as we know, the Sith cannot exist in the Force after death.
Yeah.
But again, Palpatine can come back, apparently.
Right.
But I don't know how I can rationalize the idea of every Sith Lord who ever lived living inside of him.
I'm gonna have to put it with just the idea of the fact that the Sith possess items and haunt items, and so, you know, maybe he drew all that in, and that's maybe what he was doing these...
And maybe that's the secret of Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
Maybe he actually did learn the secret, as it were.
Yeah.
But however, I will say I really love the opposite of that moment, which is Rey. Having every Jedi who ever lived, you know, the 1,000 generations live in you now.
Yeah.
That rise moment of her on the ground and all the Jedi talking. Except Mace Windu, because Mace Windu's terrible. I love Sam Jackson, but I hate Mace Windu. That's a story for another time.
That's something you haven't said to me before.
That's a story for another time. But particularly for me, hearing Qui-Gon Jinn say, Rey, every Jedi who ever lived. Oh, and then Kanan. Oh my gosh.
Literally, that one made me pause in the
And he has like one of the most prominent lines in that. That's what shook me. Because, like, Ahsoka's in there, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
But she's just kind of throwaway with the rest of them. But Kanan is, like, before Luke Skywalker says, Rey, the Force will be with you always, is Kanan's line very clearly, in the heart of the Jedi, she finds her strength, or something like that. And, yeah, he gets one of the clearest lines. I was like, dang! Kanan, represent!
I love and having Hayden Christensen doing Rey bring balance to the Force as I did. And just the visual of that, just as this is going on, the camera's just going through the battle and closer, and it gets past it and into the stars.
I liked that. Like, I don't know, part of me still would have liked to see more Force ghosts, but I also really love the way that was handled. And just kind of that simple, this is a star, like you're looking up into the galaxy, and that's where everything lives, because, you know, the Force is throughout the galaxy. Like, it's part of everything, and so she's just looking out into everything, and the galaxy is speaking back, and it's speaking through the voices of the Jedi. And I think that, it's a really powerful moment. Trying to think some other things maybe weren't. I don't like that Ben dies. I get the argument, and again, I said this argument, rationalizing it coming out the first few times, of well, if he lived, then he would have been tried for war crimes and would have lived in a prison cell forever or been executed or whatever. Right. But these movies are fairy tales. Yeah. These are archetypal characters. Real justice is not necessary. Like, they're ideals, they're extremes to communicate a deeper truth. We don't need to apply real world Earth 2020 America logic to these movies. Right. And I would have liked to see him live and be happy, but that's not what we got.
I'm actually gonna have to say something that defends you a bit, which is kind of strange for me because I have been one that has always resided on the other side of it, of him dying made sense. But like, who actually knew that he was Kylo Ren? You know, how much of the galaxy knew that Kylo Ren was Ben Solo?
Ben Solo, yeah.
You know, I feel like it could have actually been easy for him to disguise himself.
Sure.
Especially because the entire First Order seemed to be wiped out.
Yeah. Or you could have just put him in more of the movie and like, after he gets redeemed, have him actually start making amends and doing stuff. Like, I do appreciate that the way he died, he faded into the Force. He became one with the Force. I appreciate that. Have no idea why the heck he wasn't with Luke and Leia at the end.
Yeah, that was a shocking moment for me too.
It should have freaking been Anakin on Luke's side and Ben on Leia's side.
Like,
what the heck?
Literally, Luke and Leia pop up, and I'm like, where are the rest of them?
Yeah.
Because
there are two other Force-using Skywalkers here. And hey, I wouldn't care if you threw Shmi in there, man. I would have loved it, actually.
You know, I actually, and I quickly was able to get this out of my head. Thank you to, the internet. But for a very brief second, when the old lady shows up and asks Rey what she's doing there and all this, I was like, is that the same actress who played Shmi?
No.
And then quickly was like, no. It'd been a nice touch, but no.
Now that's a bit of this is a bit of a controversial moment at least on Twitter, that I actually want to talk about because I'm actually really positive on it. And that's her going back to Tatooine and burying the sabers. Now a lot of people I think some people make the strange assumption to me that she's just camping out there and living the rest of her days there. I don't think the movie implies that at all. But we see, I love the parallel to the beginning of her story of her riding down the sand dune.
I thought that was great.
So precious and just heartwarming.
Even through the times when I was unsure about this movie, I would look back to that scene and smile because she was happy, and she was peaceful.
But again, it's that moment she's laying the sabers to rest, really laying Luke and Leia to rest. And some do feel that Tatooine is a symbol of like death and desolation and doesn't look at it as the Skywalker ancestral home. rather somewhere that the Skywalkers were trying to leave. And
Right.
that is true to an extent. But you just look at myths, and again, this is where I think Campbell really helps us.
Yep.
And Arthurian legend too. It's returning Excalibur to the lake.
Right.
It's the hero going back to the ordinary world. The hero being the Skywalker, which we'll talk about in a second. But the Skywalker going back to the ordinary world, forever changed, forever changing the special world around them.
Right.
And looking ahead to a brighter future. I can't tell. Are the suns setting or are they rising?
I can never tell which one it is. I think it's...
I'm going to go with rising in my head, just to go with the theme of the rise.
Fair.
Of Skywalker. But also, I think rising suns means hope. Luke looks out and sees the setting suns,
Right.
and that's desolation.
Right.
So to me, I see them rising. I could be wrong.
And
that's how I interpret it.
I really think that that they are supposed to symbolize hope.
Yeah.
For a brighter future in this instance especially, because it is. I haven't been able to get on board with the dislike of that whole scene.
Yeah.
At all. I thought it was very beautiful.
I love so I'm torn a bit on the Rey Skywalker thing. I both love it and hate it.
Yeah.
And so I don't like it because, the part of me that doesn't like it, I think I wish Rey was just her own person.
Yeah.
And that goes with the Palpatine thing too. And I wish they had just stuck to they were nobodies, but regardless, that's kind of where my dislike of that moment comes from. But I do think the idea of choosing your own family is an incredibly relevant moment, or relevant theme to the current moment, where we live in America in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's just orphans finding family, being adopted, or queer people having to reject their their family has rejected them, and so they have to find new family. Found family is a really relevant theme, and I really love that Star Wars decided to go that route with it. And so she takes the Skywalker name, the Skywalker title, and looks forward.
Yeah, it was. I'm kind of right there with you. I think part of what helped me to quickly accept it and not really dislike it too much is the fact that I predicted that she would do that at the end. I figured she would either take on the name, or somebody else had suggested create her own.
That was a really popular theory, that she'd start a new order of Jedi and they'd be called Skywalkers.
And so I was in those two schools, that she would, essentially take the Skywalker name and move it forward. And then she lights her own yellow blade.
That was really cool. Made out of the parts of her staff, it looks like.
Yep. And honestly, I'm not sure I would have accepted any other design for her lightsaber other than taking her staff and turning it into one. Yeah. I still would have preferred her with a double blade, but
which we've seen in concept art for Colin's movie.
Right. But that's, I'm obsessed with Darth Maul, so that's why I love the dual blade.
Yeah. It was really cool. Also, props to Disney marketing for not releasing that as a toy. They totally could have done that, and toys spoil movies all the time.
I can't wait for the replicas of that and Leia's lightsabers coming out.
Those will probably show up at Galaxy's Edge pretty soon, because those have been coming out fast. Yeah, those come out pretty fast.
As well as the repaired Hero's Blade. That'll be
you can get that at Galaxy's Edge right now.
Oh,
as well as Ben Solo's lightsaber, like his first lightsaber from The Last Jedi.
I did not know that one. All right, I think the topic we've been avoiding for a bit is Rose.
Oof. Wow. Yeah.
I think I just had to pull the Band-Aid on that one for you.
Yeah.
We both are really upset with the handling of Rose. Kelly Marie Tran is fantastic, and we both stan her.
She's amazing.
And
Rose is amazing. And
yeah.
Again, she's one of my favorite parts of The Last Jedi, and because she's us. Like,
yeah.
Man, she's a Star Wars fan in Star Wars, and I love her so much. And she was just shafted in this movie. What? And I'm really trying to avoid this word, but I'm not doing a good job. But I hate that they give her an in to the story and she rejects it. Finn says, "Are you sure you're not coming, Rose?" And she goes, "Nah, Leia told me to check out these specs of these Star Destroyers." Yeah. What?
And that's...
It's just so frustrating. And again, I love the character of Janna. She's really cool.
Yeah.
She didn't need to be there, and that screen time could have been given to Rose.
Yeah.
And I would have really loved to see... I know they shot a scene between Rey and Rose, and they cut it from the movie, which, maybe that was the right choice for the movie they had. Regardless, I wanted to see... There's, no female friendship in Star Wars.
No.
I wanted to see two women be really good friends and have that palling relationship that Rey has with Finn and Poe in this movie. And, And she's a mechanic.
Yeah.
She would have been so helpful in the story.
Yeah, especially...
maybe the Falcon breaks. Well, the Falcon does break. Yeah.
And then you bring in the defectors, and you do that, and she's the one that figures out, oh yeah, we can use all these different parts for this.
Yeah.
And just it was all there. Everything they could have used her for was there, and they missed it.
And I don't know why. I want to believe that JJ and Chris were just ignorant of how to use her, and they just couldn't figure it out for some reason.
Yeah.
But it feels like all the racists and the sexists who put out a bunch of negativity about Rose after The Last Jedi, it feels like Disney is capitulating to them to buy their seats back.
Yeah.
And it feels like the racists won, and it feels gross. Ugh.
Obviously this is our most heated point. And we've been trying to avoid talking about it on here because we want to be a place of positivity for this community. And so it's hard for us because she was so positive for us, helping us to, just be a part of the story, like he said, and just...
She is Star Wars positivity,
and
she's the one who tells Finn he's a hero, and, all this stuff. She's the one who says, no, this stuff matters, and you are a hero, and...
And then just... It feels like she gets shrugged off.
Yeah.
And it is... Honestly, in my opinion, the biggest mistake they made.
Absolutely.
Even it just blows me away because JJ praised Kelly Marie Tran.
That's what feels really weird about it is he says, I'm grateful. At Celebration, he said, I'm grateful to Ryan for a lot of things, but the thing I'm most grateful for is casting Kelly Marie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
What? Especially after seeing this movie, it's like, so how? And then they go on to say, again, this is the behind the scenes stuff that we have seen pop up, and they've come out to say, well, we did shoot all these scenes with her and Leia, and we just couldn't make them work.
Yeah.
And if they put those in like a deleted scenes section on the home video and we get to see, yeah, that really didn't work, then maybe we'll feel a little better about the end product, but we're still gonna be upset that she wasn't really in the script much.
Right. Also, if all of her stuff was with Leia, they held back stuff with Leia?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's shocking. And I get it. Things...
Like, you have a limited number of scenes you can make work with her.
Right.
And you cut them? Like...
And I feel like the story does track because I feel like it took so long for us to really see more footage from this movie, and I mean, I don't know, I just feel like the editing process seemed a little longer, but maybe that's just me just perceiving time wrong. So it might have just been a really tough movie to edit.
Yeah.
In the end, and
supposedly they reshot a lot.
Yep.
Which reshoots are part of a movie. We here do not freak out over reshoots, but there's significant evidence to suggest that it's possible Palpatine wasn't in the movie until the reshoots.
It may be possible, but I'm at least for now choosing to not believe that.
Yeah.
Just because all the interviews I've seen, they said when, especially Chris Terrio saying when he came on board to write this, that Kathleen had certain things she wanted to touch on, and Palpatine was one of the biggest things she said.
Again, that's just something that's out there, because it does get a little fishy. Like, you never see the words Palpatine or Exegol come out of Adam Driver's mouth.
Yeah.
Like, it's either off screen or he's in the helmet. Which, also, side note, what the heck was with the helmet?
Yeah, I would have liked a little more as to why the helmet.
I don't
was
care
rebuilt.
that he has it. I wish that he didn't, but I don't.
Looks
it's
really
fine.
cool.
But in all the interviews, JJ and Adam were like, he has it for a specific thing he has to go do. What was it?
Where was he going? You know, one thing we haven't talked about yet is Finn being Force sensitive.
Yeah!
Let's
end on a happy note, man.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I felt it was it makes a lot of what he's already done make sense. He is able to hold off elite soldiers in the previous two movies.
Sure.
Once with a lightsaber, another time with, other weapons. Mm-hmm. It just like it, especially him against Phasma, he was able to get the upper hand on her twice.
Right.
The First Order's most elite soldier.
Sure.
The one who trains all the stormtroopers. How is a janitor going to defeat her?
Well, I mean, I don't need as much explanation for that. That stuff can just happen for me. But I will say, one of the things I love retrospectively is you look back at primarily The Force Awakens, but also The Last Jedi. I think you can almost look at how quickly he forms friendships.
Yeah.
Similar to Ezra's connection with animals. Maybe Finn has a connection with people.
Well, I would say he would be similar to Ahsoka then.
Yeah.
Because she quickly connects to people too.
Yeah.
And it just, so yeah, no, totally. Oh, I didn't think of that one.
Yeah.
And just, I just feel like some people are just like, no, that's not what happened. He's not force sensitive. But, like, in discussions with some of my cousins, honestly, they were like, now, Finn, at the end, was he trying to say that did they essentially say he's a Jedi? I'm like, not necessarily Jedi yet, but he's definitely force sensitive now.
Absolutely.
And I feel like, especially the way Force Awakens was going, they were leading that way.
Yeah.
And The Last Jedi... though not specifically stated that he's force sensitive, but you can see it in there.
Sure.
And I just feel like the whole overall arc for Finn, learning of the Force, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love you compare it to his first movie when he's like, well, we can do it. We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works. And now he's learning how the Force works.
Exactly. and that's it's so it's kind of just, it's fun to see him go through all that.
Yeah.
The all these points to where it was he has no idea how the world works when in Force Awakens, and he learns how the world works in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And now he's the one, who has accepted this and has decided it's time for him to do something with it.
Yeah.
And then he can also explain it.
Yeah.
And I think that is just... Yeah. I am so happy for John Boyega.
I love everything to do with... And it makes sense why John Boyega is talking up this movie so much. Yeah. Because he really gets some really good stuff to do. I love everything with Finn in this movie. Some people felt he was pining after Rey too much. It's like, no. He was the emotional rock of the movie. Yes. And so he's trying to protect his friends, Rey and Poe.
It's...
And even I love, again, though I hate that she rejects it, I love that Finn gives Rose an in.
Yeah.
He has this emotional connection to these people. And I love everything with Finn and Poe in this movie. Again, I wish they were boyfriends, but I love everything with them in it.
Part of me wonders if, he finally realizes he's force sensitive and accepts this and works on it. Part of me wonders if once he realized that, he's like, I can't have a romantic relationship.
I don't know.
At least not until... I don't know. That was just a brief thought I had, and it's not really deep thought.
Sure.
And it just... I'm very happy for him.
Yeah.
To have kind of this acceptance. And even if it's not truly, like, I'm going to train to be a Jedi now, it's... The Force is a part of my life.
Yeah.
It is part of who I am.
Yeah.
And just him accepting that.
Yeah, it was really cool. Other couple quick things. We love to wrap this up on a happier note. Dio.
Love Dio.
Dio is my precious son, and I will protect him at all costs. I didn't expect him to speak. I thought he was just gonna be beeps and whistles, but it was J.J. Abrams decided. J.J. Abrams is the voice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No.
Yeah. Hello. No. Thank you. Yeah. Love it.
And such a polite little droid. Another happy note on this one is my wife finally likes BB-8. She has been viciously against him. I called her a BB hater for the longest time, and just she saw this movie and came out, and we're halfway home, and she says, "You're gonna hate me." I said, "Why? And I knew where she was going with this, and she said, I love BB-8 now. Now, she doesn't like him as much as R2-D2, but
That's interesting, though, because he doesn't have a whole lot to
do in
the movie.
And so it's just a matter of, I think she she just enjoyed him more than she ever did before.
I do love the moment though when they're riding the horses on the Star Destroyer, which I just love that moment in general. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, BB-8 just riding alongside.
Literally.
Yeah.
I loved R2 got to be in an X-wing again.
Yeah, that was cool.
Where he belongs.
Yeah, and Poe's new X-wing was really cool. And like that.
Very nice.
Rey, we didn't talk about Luke Skywalker at all.
Ooh, hey, what do you know?
He was fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looked a little weird.
Yeah, his hair was
really long.
Yeah.
A lot longer than it was when he died.
Yeah. Probably one of the most things that actually pulled me out of the movie was looking at him.
Yeah. Also, he was way bluer, and like he was really blue.
Yeah.
And again, to me, I was just, like on concentrated like force planets like Octo. They're like Yoda barely looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
On Octo, but yeah, you know. Because that's basically what they established with The Empire Strikes Back, is because Obi-Wan is barely visible on Hoth, and then he looks like a normal person on Dagobah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was really blue.
And just that was another moment where my the guy on my right in the theater, as soon as Luke catches the lightsaber, he goes, "Oh, now they're throwing all the rules out the window." And I said,
Did you not watch the last movie?
what rule is this?
It's magic.
Yeah, exactly. And I did like, his moments.
Some people interpreted his line of "a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect" as a dig at Ryan, but no, it's he learned the lesson.
Yeah,
that's. Yeah, that's the arc he went on in The Last Jedi, and yeah it makes sense. Totally works.
And
I am curious when he and Leia learned that Rey was a Palpatine.
Yeah, I do want to know this too.
I'm guessing just through the Force. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did he commune with Leia as a Force ghost? These are things we might get in future novels or comic books, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
fine if we don't. Again, not all stories need to be told.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think I'm...
Man, all right, yeah, so we have talked about this movie for over an hour. Yeah, we've both come down on the grounds of liking it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily loving it a whole lot. We love parts of it. Don't like some others, but we like it. It's fun. And at the end of the day, that's all Star Wars needs to be.
Yeah.
Is a good old fun time in the movies. And it absolutely was that. And especially if you're a kid, because Star Wars is a space movie about wizards, and it's made for children. Like, come on. Like, and the kids love it, as far as I can tell. I sat next to some kid, or in front of some kids, my first viewing, and it was adorable. They were all so happy and freaking out. They're like, "Oh my gosh!" All these things. It was delightful. Take your kids to see Star Wars. It's still out in theaters right now. Don't know how much longer. I've already pre-ordered my Blu-ray, so I don't know.
Nice.
I don't know how much longer it'll be in theaters, but yeah, that's our thoughts on it. We are gonna, unless you have any other thoughts.
No.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up and move on to our next segment, which is Truth and Legends.
There's always a bit of truth in legends.
So this is the part of the show where we talk about what we've been enjoying outside of the galaxy far, far away that we feel has some sort of connection, though, to it, to where it, it could be, the same actor played in, both a movie of Star Wars and this thing I just watched. Or could be something in the theme. So Nate, what have you been enjoying?
Man, I came into this not really prepared. So, man, what have I been enjoying that isn't in the world? Do you have something?
The only thing I can think of is the Switch games I've been playing, which is The Witcher and Pokemon Sword.
Okay, tell me these Star Wars connections too.
I don't have connections right now. I mean, no, nothing.
Nothing?
Maybe we scrap this segment.
No, we're good. So I have been getting back into Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh, very nice.
Which is a good old hero's journey quest. It's got some Campbellian themes in there, just like we see in Star Wars. It's a world populated with really weird and interesting creatures. A hero with a magical destiny, a magical sword. Like, come on, it's Star Wars. Just like every other myth.
Right.
Yeah, I'll say Zelda. How about you?
Yeah, my wife and I recently watched Good Omens. Fantastic show. You should check it out on Amazon
so good.
Prime. My wife is absolutely obsessed, and I love seeing her show me all these things. But David Tennant is in it. He is one of the leading actors. And other than him being one of my absolute favorite actors, and maybe my favorite Doctor. I go back and forth between him and Eccleston. But he is also one of my favorite droids in Star Wars, The Clone Wars.
Hugh Yang.
Professor Hugh Yang. And just him helping Padawans in The Clone Wars was one of my favorite things. Them making their lightsabers. And literally the second he speaks in The Clone Wars, I'm like, oh, it's David Tennant.
Yeah.
Oh, what? And so I'm always excited to see him in anything. And so that's why I was surprised that it took so long for me to watch Good Omens because of him. But also just the sheer brevity and just... Brevity? What? Just his talent is... It's not unmatchable, definitely not. I mean, many actors are on the same caliber as him, but he's always memorable to me. Yeah. And any moment he has, just sticks with me. Most similar to Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah.
And the way he delivers lines is kind of the same way. It always just sticks, and I will forever stan David Tennant.
Yeah, I'd love to see him in a live action Star Wars project.
Yes.
Also, just even all of the actors in that show, I just want in Star Wars.
Right.
Martin Sheen,
yeah.
John Hamm. Come
I
on.
love John Hamm. Just have him be some sort of cocky smuggler of some sort, maybe even.
Oh, I could even see him as a military guy, but some cocky, sort of,
I mean, talk about
some cocky Republic officer.
Yeah.
Who thinks he has it all together. Yeah, I would love it.
And so that, I guess that kind of leads into a real brief thing of us looking ahead to Star Wars in the future and it going in the past. And us seeing what they're calling now the High Republic.
Oh, yeah. We haven't really talked about this on the show.
Because honestly, Hugh Yang could show up there. He's been helping
Padawans
for... I don't remember the exact length of time, but definitely longer than what they said they're going back to.
Yeah. For those who don't know, it is heavily implied. It's not officially confirmed. It's heavily implied that the next era of Star Wars storytelling is going to be called the High Republic series, and it's 400 years before the Phantom Menace. So we may see, younger Yoda.
I feel like that's what they're going after.
Yeah.
Is that's why they chose this era. Is they want Yoda to kind of be the anchor there.
That makes sense. Yeah,
and that that totally makes sense. But I would like to see all new characters, and if you do use Yoda, I mean, I'll be okay with him being a lead, but I would not also mind him just serving a few,
I'd be curious if he'll end up being. I mean, lately they've been committed to Puppet Yoda.
Yeah,
but
that's
since
true.
it's before the Phantom Menace and the canon version of the Phantom Menace, obviously he was first CGI in Attack of the Clones, but then they went and redid Phantom Menace, and now he's CGI there too. I'd be curious if it'll just be what the story needs him to do.
Yeah.
If the story requires him to be really active, then he'll be CGI, which will be fine, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm really curious to see, I think it was Force Center brought it up, like what the Star War is.
Yeah.
Like if it's still Star Wars, like what conflict is there? Because the Sith are presumed dead.
Right.
The Confederacy hasn't separated.
Right.
We know in the Phantom Menace they say there hasn't been a full-scale war since the formation of the Republic.
Attack the Clones is what they say.
Attack.
I literally just saw that scene.
C.O. Bibble says it, okay? I think of him from the Phantom Menace, not Attack of the Clones.
And Palpatine mentions that the Republic was formed, has stood for 1,000 years.
Yeah, and so they're going into that like halfway
and
mark,
so
I'm really curious, so it'll be a much smaller war. It won't be a galaxy-wide war. And so, yeah, really interesting stuff to do there. And also, the Jedi aren't soldiers.
Yeah.
So, because, I mean, that's the whole story of the prequels, of them falling and becoming soldiers they weren't supposed to do. So, what is their role? So many exciting possibilities. We've got Clone Wars coming up. So much stuff.
Yeah, we've got Obi-Wan or Kenobi is coming up. And
Cassian is in development. Mandalorian Season 2 is shooting right now.
And we will be talking about that again.
Next week. We haven't gotten to go in on spoilers for The Mandalorian, other than just Baby Yoda.
Right. And
really, do we need to talk about anything other than Baby Yoda?
And then Project Luminous, which is supposed to, by rumor, lead into this High Republic story that we're going to get.
I saw a reporter basically confirm that there is a video game as part of Project Luminous, and I need more Star Wars video games.
Yeah, same here.
We used to have so many.
With that, we will end our show for this week. If you would like anything you would like to recommend us to talk about, be sure to email us at blipbloppod@gmail.com.
Blipblopbloop
yes, sorry.
@gmail.com.
blipblopbloopod@gmail.com. And, just give us a little review there. Hit that, 5-star on Apple Podcasts for us. Leave us a review there as well, because your feedback will help us get to some other listeners, and we can then produce more. Maybe. I don't know.
Hopefully.
I'm rambling.
Yeah. You can follow us on Twitter @blipbloppod. Or you can email us, like Will said. You can follow me on Twitter @Hall of Fame. That's spelled HAWL, like my last name. Will, where can the people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter @HeckaHawk. And with that, I have been Will Heckman.
I've been Nate Hawley.
Blip, bloppity, bloop, bye-bye.
So say goodnight, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.